seen you around before, please subscribe and hang out, and glad to have you. How do you test the spirits? I've got a.
And they're also asking, how do you know if it's the Lord speaking?
That's kind of the same question. I've got a 2-hour-long video with Glenda Lomax on the channel. If you go to YouTube and then you search FOTM1 Glenda Lomax, I think there's just 1 or 2 things I've ever done on her channel.
It was probably April of 2011.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. But it was an audio on her radio, Blog Talk radio show. But it was all about different ways to test the spirits. The Bible has, let me just give you a list, and you can go look them up or whatever. The first thing is the smell test. You hear a voice says, "Go rob a bank, punch that guy in the nose. You're the best singer here." Whatever. Right away, like, okay, that's not Jesus. That's steal from work, whatever. No, I'm not doing that. That's. Even atheists know not to listen to the stupid voice in their head. Then there's the sneakier stuff where, like, eat a dozen donuts at midnight. That could be me. That could be Satan. But either way, it's not the mind of Christ, so I'm not going to do it. So one way is, who's glorified most if I do whatever this is telling me to do? And if it's not Jesus, then you rebuke it and ask the Lord to kill it, even if it's yourself. And the Bible says, 1 John 4:2 says, no spirit of Antichrist can acknowledge Jesus Christ came in the flesh. So that's one way we use. When you hear something in your head, you can ask it, do you acknowledge Jesus Christ came in the flesh? Or confess that Jesus Christ came in the flesh? I'm content with a yes or no. Some of the folks feel better about getting it to say Jesus Christ came in the flesh, which it won't do. And so we've even had atheists who are like, oh, God's not real. None of this stuff's real. Demons not real. I'm like, next time you hear something stupid, some really bad idea in your head, ask it to acknowledge that Jesus Christ came in the flesh. And when you hear no, you got to have to deal with what was that, or yes, it's me, son, or whatever. Anything other than a flat affirmative yes doesn't count as an answer to that 1 John 4:2 test. One time I heard yes. I'm like, okay, I don't even know what that is, but that doesn't count. That's creepy. Get away from me. Anyway, there's another way is secret names. It says to the overcomers in Revelation 2 and 3 that he'll give you a name that only he and the Father know. That's a secret password. That's like the red envelope in the safe of the submarine with the launch codes that only you and he know. So when God says, hey, I'm sending Cindy and she's your wife, you're supposed to marry her. Oh, that's pretty important. I'm going to check every way I know how. And I'm going to want to have 1 John 4:2. I'm going to want to have confirmations from other people. We call that laid out a fleece, where Gideon, it's in Judges chapter 6, 7, where Gideon puts a fleece on the ground and says, okay, in the morning, I want the dew on the grass, but the fleece to be dry. And then that happens. And then he says, well, maybe the sun came out. Maybe there's some way that happens. So tomorrow I want the grass dry and the fleece wet. And it totally was. He could wring out bowls and bowls of water out of the fleece, and everything else was dry. So that's an exterior confirmation. Then there's a confirmation from another person where somebody else comes and say, hey, the Lord's telling me you're supposed to marry Cindy, or whatever. Or you just go ask somebody, hey, can you ask the Lord about this and whatever. I like blind confirmations, which is much harder and requires more faith. But we do that around here sometimes, where
you want to learn to be able to.
It's
you're not going to always have time to.
It's tough. It's scary.
Go get 3 confirmations and then say, well, it is. No, you better. We've got to hear him.
A blind confirmation is where you just get a yes or no. Like somebody comes to me and says, hey, Doug, I'm asking the Lord about something. Could you get a yes or no for me on it? And I'm like, I don't know what it is. It could be punch Doug in the nose. It could be leave the ministry. It could be give Doug all my money. It could be I don't know what. But I'm not going to get my head in it because I have no clue what it is. So I'm not going to reason it out and give him advice. I'm just going to have to hear real good and say, well, okay, I get a yes. Great. Okay, thanks. I may not even know most of the time what it is that they were supposed to do or not do or whatever. But I better be real sure I'm hearing, and I better be real sure I'm hearing right, because it could be something, I'm supposed to sell my car and go live in, I'm supposed to hop trains from whatever. I have no idea. But it seems pure. And I would rather do that with somebody than explain to them, well, I think I'm supposed to, maybe write a bad check for the rent and believe the Lord for the money. And then they get their head in it and they give me some rational, reasonable advice why that's dangerous and it's a felony and whatever. I've written checks thousands of times that the Lord said were good, that the bank said weren't, but were good by the time, whatever. The Lord made them good, but I didn't know they were when I'm betting on them. Anyway, betting on the Lord. Let's see. Worth is asking some of the same questions, so I hope we're doing that. There are several videos about how to hear the voice of God on the YouTube channel that you can just do a search, FOTM1 Hear God or Voice of God or whatever, and there'll be several videos that come up about that in a lot more depth with biblical background basis and stuff like that. But anyway,
Maybe bongo.
in no circumstances does asking demons qualify. I'm dead set against having much conversation with demons. If when they're manifesting out of a person, you're doing deliverance, and you ask them, how'd you get here? What's the open door? What? I don't believe they're going to tell me the truth, and I don't think that's helpful. I'd rather ask the Lord what the door is and how they got there, because I know He's going to tell me the truth. Levi Bongbonga, welcome. Don't remember seeing you around before either. Doug,